What's going on, everybody? Episode 31.
What's up, guys? What's up, Nate?
Well, we're just talking about getting in the flow of the universe
Yep, off
in
camera, we're
every
talking about
in
allowing for the flow.
every little aspect of our lives. Like I just started my own little workout routine, and I'm not 19 years old anymore, so I can't do what I used to do.
You just have to allow yourself to get back into it, right? In a natural flow.
Yeah, there's a little bit of me trying to force it, but
Like we talked about, anything we force is causing a counter force. So we were just talking about that off camera is not forcing anything. Yes, taking action, inspired action, but like you're inspired to be better, right? So you're inspired to have a workout or movement routine. You're inspired to have your meditation routine. But like we said, that doesn't, you can, rigidity it can be there for people that need that real structured way of living. But at times that can cause people, we talked about this off camera, to burn out because they feel like, oh my gosh, life threw this and that at me today. I wasn't able to go and get my movement in. I missed my meditation. That's okay. You'll get back on it tomorrow, right? Or if you have a set time, like you were saying, you wake up at 4 a.m. And if you, for some reason, wake up, and I'm not saying this, once you're disciplined, you'll realize if you wake up and you feel your body is just tired, maybe sleep just a little bit more and then get up and do it half an hour later, do it an hour later, um, so that you can listen to what you're being guided to, right? Because we're always being divinely guided, always.
yeah. I mean, that's what I did this morning. like we were talking about. I when I was younger, I used to take a 20-minute nap after doing morning PT when I was in the army. And now today I had the same idea, except I passed out for like a couple hours because my body was like, "What are we doing? We're tired. Get out of here." But it's
You
okay.
needed to rest.
It's okay because it's all just conditioning right now, anyway.
Yep,
So
absolutely. So yeah, I think we were just talking more about allowing for aligning with the universal flow, right? There's a flow in the universe all the time, and things are naturally happening. We're being led to right where we're supposed to in every moment. I believe that all the right people, places, and things will show up when you allow them to happen. Like if you're sitting, maybe you're just sitting in your living room and you have this divine guidance hits you that says, I need to go for a walk to this place, or I need to go to the beach. I need to go to this. I want to go to this coffee shop. Whatever it is, and that feeling doesn't go away. That's something internal, that divine guidance that's speaking to you, saying you need to go do this thing or go to this place. And oftentimes you'll be led to meeting a person you wouldn't have expected. If you go on that walk, you might get this divine download for an idea for a business or a book or whatever, podcast, whatever it is, right? Um, but when you get that inspired, download, then you should act on it. So like we talked about, when we try to make things happen, we're automatically pushing things away from us. We're causing a counter force. So that's why you have people chasing things, places, people, and they're wondering why, like, why can I never get to that spot? Why can I never meet that person? Because you're trying to make it happen as opposed to allowing it to happen. I feel like if you are just working on yourself, becoming a better version of yourself, and allowing for everything to happen in its own time, in divine time, then things will show up and people will show up in the perfect time.
yeah, man, that's what we're also talking about when like anything with like meditation or prayer or working out, or like when we were talking about how if you set a schedule like that or you follow a regimen like that, and if you miss it, it's kind of a tightrope to walk, because we did discuss that a lot of people, that's where they may not even realize that you're seeking validation from those things too. Like, oh, I won't feel good unless I do this, right? So you have to be able to
Absolutely.
flow, and it's okay if you need to take a rest day, or it's okay if you skip a meditation. Like, it doesn't all have to be rigid and uh set in stone.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, one thing I learned from, we talked off camera, I learned from Ramdas. Ramdas used to say, don't fall into the trap of these tools that you're using, right? So one thing I learned was not having like not always looking for that outcome of things is surrendering the outcome, right? So go move your body if you're going to a gym, go move your body to be healthy, but not to say I need to be this weight and look this way. I'm going to go in just to move my body because I know movement is medicine and it helps me be healthier and better and overall be a better being, better version. But the secondary benefit to that will be, yeah, aesthetically you'll look better, right? You'll get to a healthier weight for your body, but don't do it with such a focus on I need to get to this place because then you'll almost it'll seem like it never comes. Or like we talked about meditation, and when we meditate, we're like, I want to meditate to become more enlightened or more peaceful. Why don't you just meditate because you know it is naturally going to cause you to become less reactive and more peaceful, and it's actually prepping you for when life does bring things to you, you have a better reaction to it, right? You're able to take things in stride and not be so reactive negatively to the challenges that come and that pose themselves in life. Um, but I think we do these tools and we use these tools and we do these practices with this need to have this outcome, and that's what causes people to burn out and decide, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not seeing the outcome that I want, right? So people will go into a practice and do it hard for a month and be like, well, I'm not seeing anything happen. Well, you just keep going, but you don't do it worried about the outcome or when it's going to come, right? You just literally keep using these tools that you know are going to help you. And like we talked about, you don't have to be rigid about them. If you miss your workout one day or you miss your meditation one day, it's okay. Or if you have to move it to a different time, if you have it scheduled, I'm going to do my meditation at 5 a.m. and you don't get to do it until noon that day, that's okay, right? You still were able to use that tool, but you didn't do it with any kind of rigidity and you weren't worried about any kind of specific outcome. You just did it in that moment where you're like, yeah, this helped me.
Yeah, I think a part of that is that we set, like, I know for me, I guess I don't know, it's kind of how I've been, but it more so birthed itself in the military, like high expectations of yourself. Like like how we talk about how you're your own worst critic.
Hmm.
But it makes me think about like the first time I ever tried to meditate. I was like, I couldn't shut my mind up to save my life.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
people go into it thinking, oh, I want to, you watch a movie, you're like, oh, that guy's meditating. It's peaceful and quiet and blah, blah, blah. And then you try it and you're like, no, there's a noise in the kitchen. Oh, there's a dog barking, or my mind is thinking about what I did 3 weeks ago, or, it's hard. Everything's hard the first time you try it, literally.
Yeah, and how do things work? It's just like whether you're meditating, which is working for your mind, or you're working out in the gym or wherever you're, movement. It takes consistency and it takes time, right? And it takes that discipline to keep doing it. Again, not trying to force the outcome. And you say that about meditation. Every time I talk to people about meditation, I talk to clients about meditation, they're like, I can't get my mind to be quiet. And I was like, the more you do it, like you said, the noise in the kitchen, you'll be able to completely tune that out, right? You'll be able to go sit in a space where there's like noise in the city going on, and you'll be able to find complete solitude and quietness within yourself, even though there's things going on around you. Then you get to carry that into the rest of your life. So when you're living your daily life and you're walking around, it's almost like you're constantly in a meditation. So you don't let the distraction around you affect you, right? It's like I say, I go to the gym and I train people, but it's like over the last several years, I'm just like the gym culture to me a lot of times is just not favorable because you have everybody in there like, oh, I want to have giant muscles or a huge butt or whatever they're focused on. And I tell people, I'm like, that's really not why you're there. You're there just to be better. That may be the outcome, the byproduct of what you're doing, but don't go in with that focus. And so, like, when I'm in a space like that, I really have to quiet all the noise around me, right? When I'm doing my own workout, I'm focused on watching like a podcast or a talk from Wayne Dyer or something like that. So I'm not allowing for any of that distraction to come in. Or when I'm training a client, like I tell them, bottom line is we're here for your health. We're here for you to be better overall. We're not here to achieve a greater whatever, that's why when people come to me, I want to look like this. I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you be better overall. Yeah, yeah, you may get to a space where you look 100 times better. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's like you were saying, if people are doing that, then that's them looking for a form of validation. And the only person that needs to validate you is you, right? Love yourself where you are at day one, love yourself where you are at day 90. Like literally just continue to love yourself and validate yourself and know that you don't need anyone around you to give you a high five that you got better, or you look better, or you know, whatever the case is. External validation will never lead you to where you want to be ever. I learned
Yeah,
that myself.
it's just like when you pursue the end state instead of being in the journey.
Mhm.
It's like when you're it's like, oh, when you're fixing something, oh, I just want it to be at the end state of fixed and operational, but you're not in it like, oh, what are all these little parts I have to put together? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's the same
Absolutely.
concept. Like you got to do step by step and let it
Something,
flow
yeah.
naturally.
Something I've learned is to enjoy, like you said, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, enjoy who I'm becoming in the process, right? You know, how am I becoming better in this process of being a better person? Like, you know, my personal growth, my self growth. It's instead of me being like, oh man, I really want to be on the other end of this already. I'm like, who am I becoming? Well, little by little, I'm becoming better each day. I'm becoming less reactive. I'm becoming healthier. I'm becoming more peaceful, right? I'm now in a state of a higher flow or a better flow and a higher energy and seeing things come to me as opposed to me chasing things. I see opportunities and situations come to me that I'm like, wow, these are the things I was hoping for. And I didn't have to go out and get them. I just had to keep peacefully working on myself and becoming a better version of myself in each part of the journey, as opposed to like just trying to get that outcome. Like we talked about, surrendering to outcomes.
I think it's hard I know it's hard for me sometimes. And I think it's hard for a lot of people because this might seem counterproductive to say on a podcast episode, but we're constantly, without even realizing it, just fed so much information every day and in a way programmed a certain way if you think about it. So it's like you're because of those false dopamine hits, your mind is like, oh, let me look at my phone, let me look at Facebook, let me look at YouTube. And sometimes you just got to put that stuff away and learn to be okay in your own silence.
Absolutely. No, yeah, detox from all of those things. That's still looking for a form of validation, right? Getting that dopamine hit from social media or, you know, getting a dopamine hit from going to the gym and somebody looking at you. It's like, you know, that those things should not be what you're looking for. It should be that you're doing things to live in that state of flow, to live in that state of freedom, right? And then the more you do things just to become your most authentic self and you do it for that reason as opposed to any other outcome, you start to live in that state of freedom, right? You don't need the validation anymore. You don't do things to try to get the outcome anymore because you're doing everything you're doing in life to just live the life you want. Like you said, program. We need to deprogram everything we've been handed. We've been programmed from birth, right? By government, by religion, by politics. And I tell people like, you know, we don't need to live in any of that because that's keeping you small and it's keeping you fearful. Become your highest and best version, and you realize you don't need to live in any of those programs. You get to co-create your life the way you want it to be, and God will open the doors that you can never imagine.
Yeah, no, I agree. And uh, when you start to work on embracing your authentic self, more often than not, you can better serve others because you're more at peace with yourself. Because a lot of people will project what they feel inside onto others. But if you're a person that's like, I don't know, I don't want to say put together, but that's the best thing I can come up with right now. If you're put together, for lack of a better term, you'll be able to like analyze and see someone how they're acting, or and maybe you can diffuse a situation because you're like, oh, I've been there, I've experienced that anger or that upset, or I understand where that person's coming from. But it's hard. It's much harder to do that when you're clouded on the inside.
Absolutely, absolutely. Think about it. I was just having this conversation earlier where, like you just said, I was telling the person I was talking to, I was like, you know, when you become your most authentic version and you become your most peaceful version, um, you are now more effective in every role that you have. So I hear people all the time, well, I want to be a great, you know, father or mother. I want to be a great partner, you know, and I'm like, well, when you're burning the candle at both ends, um, trying to appease people or trying to do all these other things, you're not showing up as your best version. People can see and feel that, right? When you're doing things in a natural flow, again, very peacefully, people can see and feel that energy. And then you naturally show up as a better parent, a better partner, a better whatever you're doing in life. So again, that's living in that state of flow and just that natural alignment with the universe, and then you get to now show up in this high, beautiful energy that people that's infectious, right? It attracts people to you. They're like, man, I want to be more like that. How do I get to live to be more like that? Right? Well, that's just you working on yourself.
Yeah, and it's people will probably understand this better from like a gym aspect, but it's okay to rest. And that also means mentally, spiritually, all aspects of the human existence. It's okay to take a break every once in a while, you know?
Absolutely.
Like you
It's
said,
for
like you said, burning the candle at both ends. You can't pour from an empty cup.
nope. And it's just removing distraction. So I highly recommend people, whether it be once a week or once a day, is removing all distraction. Remove your phone, TV, even like you said, even the gym, whatever, and just sit in silence and sit with yourself. All the answers are within that you're looking for, the answers to all the quote unquote problems that you think you have, all the answers already live inside of you, right? And so when you find that peaceful space inside of you, naturally the answers will show up. But if you're constantly distracted and you're doing these tasks, like I got to get to the gym, even I got to meditate, I'm going to be on my phone, I got to answer emails and texts. It's like, why don't you remove all of that and just get quiet every single day? Best thing I could recommend to people is get quiet every single day and watch how answers to all of the things in your life will start to show up. The truths will show up, what you actually want to be doing in life. Are you in a situation you don't even want to be in anymore? Well, that answer is there. If you're constantly distracted, you're missing the divine downloads.
Yeah, because if you can't, if you can't silence yourself enough to hear what's within you, then you're just going to be chaos.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I think that's a lot of people, right? A lot of people are just in chaos. They think it's go, go, go and have a, checklist and you get all these things done. But at the end of the day, did you get done what you're primarily here for? I feel like what I've learned is like my greatest purpose is becoming my highest version, right? I get to become my highest version and then I get to take that out to others and share that with them in my daily life and hopefully beyond. So I always tell people you're looking for your purpose. Your purpose is for you to become your highest and best version. That's the purpose for everyone that's here, I believe.
Yeah, and you can't, like, in life, we try to do everything all at once, but you got to take it one little step at a time. Like, have one small victory a day. And those
Yep,
small victories, it sounds corny, but it's true. Those small victories will turn into big ones over time, like consistency, like you said.
absolutely. Well, it's like I read the Tao. I read Wayne Dyer's book. I've shared it with you. Change your thoughts, change your life, living the wisdom of the Tao. Wayne Dyer said he lived the Tao for a year straight and it changed his entire life. What does the Tao teach? One small step each day. It doesn't say try to get it all done today because you'll never get it all done. Just take one small step each day in that direction that you want to go, and over time that's going to add up, and then you will wake up one day and see that you are living a completely different life, right?
Yeah, it's like when you get to that point, it's almost like a breath of fresh air
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, the tension is gone. I feel
Yep.
better. I feel lighter. You literally feel lighter.
Yeah, you
Like,
realize you don't have to make it all happen overnight.
yeah, because whatever issues you have, they're still going to be there in the morning. There's no sense in worrying
Yeah.
about it.
Well, I see, and we were talking about this off camera. The view of life that I've adopted is I believe that everything's happening for my highest good. And I believe that, even the things that appear to be problems are actually there to help me. And so the more I focus on that, I see like the challenges that I receive are actually trying to grow me and they're showing me the areas that I need to get better in. And so I'm like, okay, thank you for this challenge. What am I supposed to learn from this? So I don't see anything really as a problem. I see everything as growth, right? And I think that everything is here to help me be better and to live the life that I actually really came to live. And so when you change that viewpoint, you realize, man, like, why do I look at things as problems? They're all here to help me. And even when it seems like your life's falling apart, things are being removed. I always tell people the space is being created so the universe can replace it with things that are actually supposed to be there, right? So trust that when things are taken away from you, it's literally creating space so that you can continue to grow, so that something greater can come into your life. And it takes the pressure off of you when you realize that everything is being divinely orchestrated. You don't have to worry about making everything happen because it's all going to happen just the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it because we were basically programmed to put all this crazy pressure on ourselves for our whole lives. Work until you die. Nothing makes sense. Everything's a lie. And then on top of that, we've talked about it before, but I had a good reminder. I was watching something the other day, and the person was talking about how when you pray for patience, God's going to give you situations to learn to be patient in. It's not that it's not it's not some magic switch where it's like, okay, I'm patient now. you know?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I've learned is that everything I've prayed for, God has handed me multiple situations to build that part of my character, right? I pray for strength, God gives me situations where I have to be strong. Pray for patience, I'm in situations where I got to become more patient. Um, it's literally that's the way God responds. That's why things are done in parables, right? So it's like that's like the Bible. The Bible speaks in parables because it's trying to show you that it's the answers aren't going to just be like, here you go, like a genie. It's literally like, no, I'm going to hand you things that are going to make you grow and develop those characteristics that will help you be better in this life, right? And that's it's kind of a cool way of doing things because again, how would you have gratitude for anything if everything was just handed to you? Like, hey God, I'll take $10 million. God's like, here you go. Like, all right, well, that's all I got to do. But when you have to actually like do the work and apply yourself and grow, then you receive these amazing blessings, these amazing miracles. You have so much more gratitude for them. You appreciate them and you don't blow them, right?
Yeah, well, I forgot I don't remember if it was a conversation I had in my house or if it was something we've talked about it before. You can't have light without darkness.
Hmm.
You wouldn't know the value of the light without darkness.
It's the laws of polarity, man. Like, the seven hermetic principles. One of them is the law of polarity, that there's always both sides to things. There's light and dark, right? There's black and white. I mean, there's good and bad, supposedly. But like I tell people, like, at the end of the day, if you haven't experienced the opposite, like if you want to be wealthy and you want to be abundant, but you've never felt what it's felt like to not be that, you wouldn't appreciate when you finally receive that abundance and wealth, right? You want to be healthy. Well, if you've never experienced kind of a health challenge, then how would you know what it feels like? Like now I'm healthy, now everything's great, right? Um, we have to experience all of it, and that's where we get to embrace all of it. It's just like embracing ourselves. We all have a light and a shadow side. You know, one thing I've always been taught is like embrace all of you because that's how you learn that there's two sides of everyone and everything.
Well, yeah, what I was just thinking actually as you were saying that is you have to be able to all these practices that we're talking about, like exercise, meditation, prayer, all this talk about going within, is it's not just going to be some. Even if you do it for a year, and you just started and you go for a year, it's not just going to be some magical process where it's like, oh, I'm good now. What's happening during these little sessions that you're doing, whether you're exercising, doing something challenging, meditating, especially prayer, especially, is that you're kind of in a way, quote unquote, cleaning out yourself. The point I'm getting to is that once you can awaken enough to decide what you want to feed, whether that's light or dark, you know,
Hmm.
what you feed is what you get in return. So
Absolutely.
that's why, like Brian, I told you a couple months ago, like I don't even listen to the same music anymore. It's crazy. Like I don't even watch the same movies anymore because I'm like, this is like really dark and terrible. So I don't want that in my life. So no, I'm not gonna watch. It's like it's crazy how fine tuned it can become in a way.
Absolutely. You get what you focus on, right? And what you put energy into. So if you're feeding, like you said, like movies, for instance, if you're watching negative movies and you're feeding that, it's okay to watch, a goofy, scary movie or whatever once in a great while. But I tell people, like, if you're constantly feeding that, that's going to become more of your reality is kind of like this heavy negative energy, right? And so I tell people, like, especially, I was just talking talking about that today. I was saying, like before you go to bed at night, don't scroll on your phone. Don't watch anything negative. Either watch a positive, uplifting documentary or movie or whatever the case is. Watch a positive podcast, listen to positive affirmations, meditate, whatever it is, right before bed, because that's when your subconscious mind is most awake and aware. So I tell people, like, what you're feeding and what you're putting energy into is what you're going to receive in your everyday life, right? And so I listen to positive things all day, every day. I read positive books, uplifting books. Um, and I've gotten really good, like you said, though, it's been years of me doing this. I've gotten really good at like replacing any kind of thought that's not benefiting me. I can replace it very quickly with uplifting thought and positivity. Um, but people will say, like, most people are really just constantly on a loop of negativity in their minds. And I tell people, if you constantly like practice these things that are uplifting you and fill your life with positive energy, positive people, and positive things, it's going to become your way of life. And then you're going to start seeing the good in everything. You're going to start seeing things work out for you very naturally, right? Again, you're in the flow. You're in the flow with the universe. When you're feeding all that heavy and negativity, it's like you're at an uphill battle all the time, you know? And that's definitely something I've learned. People would ask me, like, you're always positive, and why are you always positive? I'm like, because by me living in a state of optimism, I see when things might be kind of heavy, but I'm like, hey, there's a purpose behind all of this, and only God knows what that purpose is if we can't see it clearly. But by me being optimistic all the time, I see way more good in the world and in my life than I see anything else, right? And again, even the stuff that's quote unquote bad, I realize is actually there for a higher purpose.
Yeah, I think that's the well, dude, that's the programming. The programming is like, oh, whatever power you want to say it is, whether it's man-made or spiritual, there's like a counter force that wants you to be down in the dirt, low energy, everything sucks, or like even if you're like, oh, but you have to be able to not just listen to things or watch things. You also have to be able to speak yourself out of that little trench. Like you were created for more than just sitting at an office from 9 to 5 every day. All of us were. We weren't meant to do that ever.
Absolutely.
But
100%.
like you have the power within yourself to change it. You just have to be awakened to it and be like, okay, I'm going to, because I have the power within me that God gave me to change my life to do what God put me here to do, you know? So it's like you have to be able to speak, you have to be bold and courageous within yourself too, not just externally with other people. Because
Absolutely.
like a lot of the stuff we're talking about, most of the time people don't want to think about their problems or not. I don't mean like problems like, oh, I got to pay the bills, like internal problems. Like people don't want to talk about that stuff because it makes them feel uncomfortable,
Hmm.
even if they're alone. So
Absolutely. That's why people avoid it. Yeah, that's one of the things I tell people whenever I hold a group or a talk. I tell people one of the first questions I ask is like, who in this room can sit by themselves with no distraction, no phone, no nothing, for an hour just with themselves? You'd be surprised how many people, even that question, me posing that question, makes them uncomfortable. Like, oh no. And I'm like, if you don't face those discomforts and you don't face those things that are trying to leave your body, you will never get to the space you want to in life. You'll never find that peace. And I feel like what everybody's looking for is peace, right? So again, like I said earlier, what is our greatest job in this life? Heal yourself. Become your best and highest version, your most healed version, your most peaceful version, right? And then you get to live a life of ease, whatever that is. And then you do become, like you said earlier, I think you said you alluded to, if you're in chaos, it's really hard to hear these divine messages that are trying to come through to tell you, like, hey, you don't belong in that office job. You actually belong out here creating this art, right? And that's what you're passionate about. That's what you love, and you'll love doing that every day. That's what you were put here to do. But because you hear all the noise from the world telling you you need to go have this job and get this retirement and all these things that are not promised to you anyway, like at the end of the day, you might get to that space and die the next day. What does it matter? Like live a life that you feel is fulfilling you, right? And at the end of the day, typically, I believe all of us are here with gifts to go serve others. right? Use your gifts to go serve others. How many meaningless jobs are out there that people are sitting in that are like not serving anyone? I'm like, you're not doing what you actually came here to do. We all came with different gifts and passions, and God gives us these ideas that we can use to get out there and change the world. But oftentimes we're so distracted with, well, I got to pay these bills, and I got to have this job to pay this mortgage or this rent. That's the other thing I tell people: create a life that takes all that away, right? Over the last several years, I've minimized all my debt down to very little, so that I have a lot more freedom, and I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to go take this full-time job to try to pay all these bills. I don't have many bills. And you can work at getting to that space where you're like, I don't need to have this giant home or any of these things, because at the end of the day, none of that's going to matter anyway, right? So why not just have a quaint, beautiful zen little place that you get to call as your landing pad? But why not get out in the world and just like use your gifts and your passions to bring change to people's lives, to uplift the energy on the planet?
It's kind of crazy that you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. Um, I was thinking about when we're like, if you think about it, in anyone's life, we all have these natural gifts that we have, but those have been beaten out of us, programmed out of us in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we did it ourselves. Maybe we listened to somebody else that said that's not going to make you successful in life. And it brings me back to like that, like when you were a child and you have that childlike innocence and wonder and creativity, and we lose it. Like, sometimes I think that we're all just children in bigger bodies and we don't even realize it. Because even in the context of this may not relate to this, but even in Matthew 18:3, it says, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So what does that? So what does that mean? That means be humble and be loving. Like when you think about, like I used to be good at music, I used to be good at writing, I used to be good at uh like other stuff. And as I've gone through life, like that stuff's kind of fallen away. And I'm like, where's that man? Like you remember how free you felt as a kid? Like, oh, I'm
Absolutely.
just gonna go do whatever. That's how we should strive to be as adults. Like, still be responsible and take care of your business, but it all goes back to not being so.
You cut out there for a second. What was the last part? It all goes back to being.
Oh no, I was saying it all goes back to not being so rigid. Like that's exactly what made me think of that is the gifts that we have. That's like basically beaten out of us throughout our whole lives.
Because it's like you said, people tell us, well, how are you going to make money on that? Well, guess what? If I follow what I'm gifted with and I'm passionate about, God will take care of all of what you need, right? You'll be funded with what you need to be funded with. You'll have the right people come into your life. Kind of like you said, going back to being childlike, you think about when you were a child, you could be 1 minute, this is the other thing I tell people, don't be afraid of changing what you do and what you're passionate about, right? People will go into a profession and be like, I got to be here for the next 40 years. Man, when you were a kid, 1 minute you were a cowboy, the next minute you were a professional rock climber. I mean, whatever, right? Like you literally would change roles from second to second. And why did that go away? Because we're told you need to find one thing and stick to it the rest of your life, right? Now, unless this thing that you're doing, you're absolutely passionate about and you're making a difference and you love what you do every day, great, do it. But if you're doing it because someone told you need to go have this job, you need to have this noble career and get this retirement, I'm like, let all that go, man. Literally follow that inner child that's telling you no, what you, like you said, you're really good at music. Then why are you not making music? Why, right? I mean, that's a passion and a gift you've had since you were young. Um, it's like for me, one thing I was told by a mentor before was like, what have you always been naturally gifted with since you were young and you really enjoy doing? For me, it's always been uplifting people, right? Seeing people that are kind of downtrodden and just like feeling down and being like, hey, and lifting them up and motivating them. As an athlete, I was like usually a captain, like in football or whatever. And if we'd be losing, I'd be on the sideline lifting everybody up, right? Well, when I worked as a paramedic, same thing. I'd be in the back with patients and I'd be lifting them up. And now doing it as I've been doing it, whether it be through training or coaching or whatever the case is I love shifting people's mindsets to help them see the positive and the uplifting in every situation that they're in. That's something I've done my whole life. It comes naturally to me. I love lifting people up and pulling them out of that heaviness and bringing them into the light, right? And so, whatever it is that you're good at, that's what you should be using each day. Why did we start this podcast? It was literally to put out information and this message of getting people to expand their consciousness, right? And be able to live the life that they want and lift themselves out of this rut that they feel like they're in. And the reason that so many are in the ruts is because, again, we've been programmed to believe you have to go do these things in life to quote unquote be successful. Wayne Dyer talked about a lady who was a hospice nurse in Australia. And she said, she wrote a book, I can't remember the name of the book, but the title of the book, but she said the one consistent thing she heard from all the people dying was, I didn't live the life that I believe I was put here to live, right? Because they followed something that they were told to do as opposed to what their soul was leading them to do. And that's one thing I'm like, I do not and will not live out my life doing things just to fulfill some societal quote unquote norm or programming. I'm gonna do what I believe I was put here to do.
Yeah, man, it's about finding. It's kind of like that. It's awakening, and it's also like an inner confidence. Like no matter what anybody tells you, like nope, this is what I'm doing because dude, I don't know why I've been hearing it so much lately in different content. The main message I keep getting is it gets hard right before the breakthrough.
Mhm.
You said it. I think you said it the other day too, but I've seen it in so many different things the last couple weeks. I'm like, okay, is there some magical breakthrough I don't know about? you know?
What I've noticed is right before the grand miracle or the grand, like you said, breakthrough or awakening that you're waiting for comes, is a lot of challenge, right? It's like that final test before the gift is handed to you, whatever that is. Um, and so but that's when most people quit, right? They're doing all these things, they're growing, they're expanding, they're like, man, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's like, why does it seem like everything's imploding on me? Because it's actually that final test right before that door breaks open. And so I tell people just keep going, never stop. Like double down on what you're doing, triple down on what you're doing, because you know that that grand thing is coming, whatever that is. God's about to hand it to you, but you're being tested. Like, is your faith going to waver? Right? Is your faith in the fact that everything's working out for you going to waver because things are becoming challenging? That's the point where you're just like, I have more faith than ever right now that things are actually working for my highest good. And then before you know it, you start seeing all this stuff come, all this stuff show up, and you're like, wow, like okay, things are working for me. But most people quit. It's in the Bible. I don't remember. I couldn't reference what passage it's in, but it says, that basically like most people come to the door and they knock, and because it's not opened immediately, they quit right before. If they would have knocked one more time, that door would have broke wide open. It would have been like, oh my gosh, here I am.
Well,
Right.
what's funny about that is something I've learned over the last couple weeks is I've started to have this thought in my head is that if you talk about it in like biblical terms, there's God and Satan, whatever, right? And so many people, there's a problem in their life. They're like, oh, the devil's after me, blah blah blah, and it's like, no. What if it's not the devil? What if it's God showing you something?
Mhm.
Because the whole kind of the premise behind God and Satan is that things only happen because God allows it. Because the idea is that God could snuff out the devil in a heartbeat and wouldn't be a problem. So why does he keep him around then? Right?
You know what
Because
I equate the God and Satan thing to spirit and ego. Ego's
yeah,
there. Ego's
pride.
there lying to you, telling you that it's protecting you and to be prideful, right? And spirit's like, you don't have to be prideful. You don't need protection because you already have divine protection. You literally just need to trust that divine guidance, right? Because again, everything is good. So, like you said, people say, "Oh, the devil's out." No, the devil's not after you. You are literally being handed these challenges and these tests to help you grow to become a better version of yourself. So nothing is actually working against you. You just think it's working against you, right? And that's what we've been fed. And the ego will remind you over and over, hey, remember when this happened? Remember when that happened? And it's trying to keep you in a space of fear, even though it thinks it's there to help you. The soul is always at peace, just like, what are you worried about? Everything's working out. Just let go, trust, and have faith that everything's coming together because it is. And that problem that people were worried about 2 years ago, if they look at it 2 years later, they're like, man, that thing worked itself out and it's gone, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, another aspect too is this is why the thought came to me is that, you know, in somewhat biblical terms, they talk about God basically putting you through the fire, right? To refine you. There's a passage, I can't remember it right now, but it's basically to refine you like silver. When you I think it's silver is the metal, but when you were when a human being tries to mold silver, you have to meticulously manipulate it or like adjust it or take care of it. So they use that kind of like metaphorically. It's like you said, when everything feels like it's imploding and blah 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 blah, that could just be God being like, "Don't worry, I got you. Just keep going." That's where, like you said, that faith comes in. Like everything might feel like it's falling apart, but God actually has a much better plan that you can't see right now. But you're
Absolutely.
constantly being guided at all times.
Yeah, I think the story in the Bible with Job, right, is everything was taken away from him, but he never lost that faith, even though he was told he was foolish and, why are you praising this God that, is taking everything away from you? And because he never lost faith, everything was returned tenfold, right? And like that's the whole thing is, you're gonna be tested not because we don't have this religious God that's like, oh, I'm gonna punish you. It's I believe it's a creator that's like, I'm gonna test you to grow you, like you said, to refine you. And will you dive even deeper into your faith that everything's working out, and then you will see everything work out.
And
And
yeah,
again,
that's
it's not in our time; it's in divine timing.
exactly. That's what I was thinking about the story of Job as I was talking, but it's also like that's in most of the stories, and in it's interesting because in the story of Job, I don't I'm just gonna say like basically God allows whatever you believe in. There's a counter force that is allowed to exist to challenge your own faith.
Hmm.
So like even like the story of David, like he was a peasant and he became a king. And it's like you don't like we all think that we're peasants trying to work our way up to be a king in our own means or a queen, but we're already kings or queens if you have faith because you know that God is with you at all times. You know what I mean?
You're already whole and complete, right? You're already whole and complete from the moment you come here. You're whole and complete. God's already done everything for you. So yes, continue to grow and become a better version of yourself. But yeah, it's you already have everything that you need. That goes back to the programming where we're told that we need to chase all these things outside of us to have a quote unquote successful life and happy life. I'm like, you don't need any of that. You literally just need to become your best and highest version and then follow what internally you're told to be here for, what you're here for. And and man, you'll live a life of fulfillment. You don't need to chase anything.
Well, just to finish that off, is that a while ago I was listening to this one video where it's talking about, you know, if you talk about it in biblical terms, they talk about the devil. And they're like, they use the story of Moses where he had a speech impediment and he murdered someone and all this other stuff. But it said that the phrase the devil uses the most is you don't qualify or you can't do this. Doesn't that's the same concept of what we're talking about this whole time. You
Yeah,
allow whatever it is, you allow something or someone to talk you out of doing what is meant for you.
absolutely. Self-doubt and fear, right? Self-doubt and fear. That's why most people don't do things that they really want to do, is because they doubt themselves that they are able to, and they have fear. And a lot of times that fear may come by way of family, friends telling you, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Never ever listen to people outside of you. When you have that burning desire inside of you that's constantly telling you you should be going and doing this, it doesn't matter how it's going to happen, it doesn't matter when it's going to happen. you literally just follow that, right? And you don't worry about how things are going to be taken care of because God is your provider. You're going to be provided for if you trust. You just need to step into that fear, step into that unknown, and become, again, becoming your best and highest version, and then just stepping into the things that you want to be doing in life that you feel are always there. That pull that's never gone away is what you should be following, and it will all work out, right? Not that you won't have challenge when you're doing it, because I think that's another test of faith, is that you're stepping into this thing that you're passionate about doing, that you really want to be doing. Oftentimes
Mhm.
it'll be like, geez, why is this not unfolding the way I thought it was going to? Because your human mind can't see how it's going to come together. God just tells you or asks you to keep going, and all the details will come together beautifully. And again, that may take time. In our human realm, it may take time, but in the divine realm, it's already all happening. It's already all put together.
Well, right. That's again, that's also surrender.
Mm-hmm.
You got to surrender to those. Uh, you have to surrender to wanting to control all the little details in the outcome, and just like we said, align yourself with God in the universe and flow.
Surrender to the process.
Go much smoother.
Absolutely. 100%.
But any closing thoughts, sir?
Again, just telling everybody, try to find what allows you to feel yourself in that flow. So whatever practices and tools you can use that bring you into that space of peace and ease. If you're at peace and ease and enjoy, you're in flow, right? Have fun with everything you do. I tell people always have fun. The more you have fun, the more you laugh, the closer to God you are, right? The more in alignment with God you are. So enjoy the process, do what brings you the most joy, and you will naturally see your life unfold the way you would like it to, but oftentimes even greater than you could imagine.
Yeah, and I'll just end it with, in a more tempered sense, try to remember what it's like to be a kid.
Hmm.
Think about think about your life before you had all this responsibility, before you had a job, before you had a car, before you had to pay an electric bill. Think about how you felt as a child, because we're all, whatever you believe in, we all come from one source. We're all children of God. We're all his children, basically. So think about it in those terms. Like, don't take, we said this before, but don't take life so seriously, because everything's working out for you, whether you realize it or not.
Absolutely. Good in there, my friend. Good in.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this message with someone you think needs to hear it. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Yep. Love all you guys.